Hi, this is Kal Korff at Daily World Television here in Chandigarh, India. Thanks for joining me for this Newsbite. I want to take a moment and talk about the first press conference that President-elect Trump has held since he won the election over Hillary Clinton. I saw that press conference live via the broadcast feed like countless people did. And as a journalist who does cover it, and I've already written an article that Daily World has published highlighting what happened during that press conference, all I can say is it was a real doozy. It was also very refreshing. You know, I have to admit, I was one of the people who thought, what kind of Donald Trump is going to show up? Is he going to be very mad? Is he going to be angry? Is he going to act presidential or not? Because Trump has to change some of his shtick now that he's going to replace Barack Obama in the White House. He absolutely must be presidential, or this whole thing is not going to work. It's going to be bad for the United States of America. Well, it turns out that Donald Trump hit a lot of home runs during that press conference. He deservedly and understandably criticized CNN and BuzzFeed for publishing fake news. And this fake news, as I document in an article published in Daily World and in coverage of what Trump said, was about an alleged scandal in Russia that never happened. It was an entire fabrication. And in another article the Daily World will publish, we're going to identify the name of the British agent who actually gave this stuff to the FBI on behalf of Senator John McCain. Now, what I mean is that McCain ended up with a report. He gave it to the FBI, who shared it with the CIA, and it actually ended up in an official assessment. Now, imagine an official assessment that contains fake information. Now, the Kremlin has denied that there was any such incident, and you might say, well, they were going to deny it. You can't take their word as being credible. But in this case, you have to, because Russia is telling the truth. The incident, which is very twisted and bizarre, about a sexual escapade involving prostitutes and Donald Trump in a hotel in Russia, is just not true. What is interesting is that the former British analyst and apparent agent with MI6, he was paid by both the Democrats and Republican opponents of Donald Trump to try to find dirt on the president-elect. This is what resulted. The information was given to a British ambassador, apparently, who then arranged to give it to Senator John McCain, who hates Donald Trump. McCain has admitted now that he then gave the data to the FBI because he says he couldn't assess its value one way or another, thought it was worthy of further investigation. And then, of course, the CIA got involved. This story was then published by CNN, who tried to present it in any credible light, even though it never had any credibility. And then BuzzFeed ran with the story and said, even though it contains contradictions and errors and hasn't been confirmed, here it is anyway. That is disgraceful. That is not how journalism should be. Now, as Trump did note, and he's right to note this, and bless him for doing this, kudos to him, he noted that other media like the Washington Post and the New York Times did not agree to run with this story. Why? Because they couldn't verify it. But that didn't stop NBC and it didn't stop CNN from moving forward with the story, shame on them, and for helping spread fake news. Now, this is where the challenge of exposing fake news rests. The problem is that the public counts on the media to be the arbitrators of truth, meaning to report the so-called facts. People can then make up their minds. Journalists are supposed to be neutral. They're not supposed to be the cause of any news or making news. They are supposed to report on the news. And as a longtime journalist myself, I can safely say that based on my observation, and I'm not the only one who feels this way, today's modern mainstream media, especially in the United States, has lost its moral and ethical compass. According to a recent poll done by Rasmussen Reports, it was just done last week, CNN has now been rated, in the minds of those who were surveyed, as the least trustworthy news source in America. And that's ironic, since their slogan and motto is that they are the most trusted source. Well, maybe in their own minds, but not in the minds of most Americans. CNN deserves this bashing, because shame on them for running with this story in the first place. And notice that they're not putting in the same kind of zeal and energy to distance themselves and expose this story as they did publishing this false story in the first place. And this is where exposés of fake news become problematical. Because when fake news is championed by news entities, like it has been in the past by the New York Times, even the Washington Post on a couple of occasions very recently, as we have reported, as I have even written about in Daily World newspaper and have talked about on TV. You notice that those same entities don't put the same amount of effort and energy into setting the record straight. Either they avoid the issue entirely of correcting the public record, or they sheepishly will add some sort of, disclaimer and work it in there, which scarcely gets the visibility and attention of the original claim. That is where this game becomes very dangerous. So, to use an analogy, as I've written in articles before, when the foxes or the wolves are guarding the hen house, you have to be very careful, because what results is a lot of dead chickens, so to speak. And then the chickens only become protected when the wolves are full. But they're going to get hungry again. So the bottom line is, it doesn't work. When the gatekeepers cannot be trusted, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter what the subject is. I'm Kal Korff. Thanks for joining me here on Daily World Television.